Hey guys, what's going on? Hermdo back with you. I have a little story I'd like to share, if I may, but a few days before Christmas, I went to my local grocery store to pick up a few things. My money was tight at the time, and I only had a little bit of cash to spend, so I was selective about what I bought. I picked up some things and headed to the front of the store. At this store, there were self-checkout areas. One was large and allowed you to scan as many items as you wanted. As it was close to the holidays, the line was extremely long. There's another row of several smaller kiosks next to it that only allowed you to scan 5 items, but there was no wait. So I opted for the latter since I only had 4 things. I scanned and bagged my items and placed them in my cart, but when I went to pay, I discovered that the kiosks didn't accept cash, which is all I had available to me at the time. I asked one of the store employees if she could cancel out my order. She did and went to help another customer. I stood there with my stuff looking at the other checkout area. It was an absolute zoo of people buying Christmas presents. Kids were screaming and adults were arguing with the employees who were trying to fix malfunctioning checkout machines. After witnessing this pandemonium, I noticed that no one was paying attention to me. I was already stressed out and tired from being in a large, loud store surrounded by angry people, and I sure as hell didn't want to stand among them in line for God knows how long. After a moment of deliberating, I said, fuck it. I walked out of the store without paying for my stuff. No alarms rang and nobody tried to stop me as I made my way back out to my car. After I tossed the bags into the bag seat, I made sure to put the cart back into the cart return for good measure. Normally I don't condone stealing, and thinking the leftist tendency to romanticize crime is extremely grating. I see footage of thieves breaking into people's cars or stealing electronics in broad daylight, and it angered me as a tax-paying, law-abiding American to not only see people committing crime, but also seeing certain people acting like these criminals are fighting back against capitalist oppression as opposed to just being shitheads. We laugh when some rich guy gets his Mercedes broken into, but he can afford to fix it. Some office dude making $40,000 a year who just got his work laptop stolen likely can't. Normally, I'd like to think I'm morally better than those thieves, but in that moment at the store, I didn't really care. I was broke and needed food, and the stuff in my cart totaled only $30, plus nobody got hurt. I started thinking to myself, what does it matter if I stole some shit from a huge chain store? Those assholes have insurance, and I need to eat. Not that I'm saying that excuses more serious crime, of course. There's organized crime rings that steal tens of thousands of dollars worth of power tools from places like Home Depot, sometimes even killing their employees. Walgreens is losing money by locking up the merchandise, but if they leave it out, they run the risk of losing so much inventory they're forced to close. I, on the other hand, just want to make a fucking sandwich. But it was that moment that realigned my perceptions. As I went home, I thought about all the people who legitimately have stolen food to survive at one point or another. I thought about the poor people forced to live in housing projects and subsist off food stamps. I thought about the homeless guy who needed to stand on the street corner begging to be able to get any food at all. The fact we're the richest country in the world and this kind of thing has become endemic is a massive indictment on us. There's a lot of fear-mongering and grandstanding about theft these days. We have this urge to think that anyone who steals is a scumbag who deserves prison, but in a lot of cases, people are stealing out of desperation. If you're going to go on and on all day about how rough things are in America and how bad the economy really is, you're going to have to come to terms with this reality. But although I do have some empathy for people who legitimately have stolen things they needed to survive, I can acknowledge that these thefts can contribute to stricter security measures at businesses and food deserts where low-income people don't have anywhere to buy food because all the stores were forced to close due to thefts. Yeah, food theft and food insecurity has become a serious problem. You know, one leads to the other. If you don't have food at home, if you don't have healthy, sustaining food at home or access to it, you're going to steal stuff. And a lot of these thefts are starting to pile up and really weigh on a lot of these retailers. It's no secret that retail theft has become a major issue for grocers in recent years, and solutions company Avery Dennison is taking a closer look at how the industry executives are currently looking at the issue. According to new research from the company, 65% of food retailers in the United States and United Kingdom say the impact of theft has reached a crisis point, with 38% of respondents saying theft is a bigger concern today than it was 12 months ago. Avery Dennison surveyed 300 senior retail leaders representing brands with more than 200 stores for food retailers. Addressing the impact of theft has found to be the leading business concern. Other pressing concerns included optimizing omni-channel, improving staff efficiencies, minimizing supply chain disruptions, and addressing talent shortages, respectively. Grocers are still in the process of boosting their responses to theft, with 55% reporting that 3 to 4% of their total IT budget is allocated to retail theft detection and prevention. Half of the retailers surveyed said those budgets included increase in spend over the last 2 years. However, 27 believe those a lot of allocated resources are insufficient. I'll leave a link to this article. The next article I want to talk about, other people who receive SNAP and EBT benefits, they're being ripped off too. And this is another kind of theft we're talking about here. It's an absolute travesty what's going on here. There's a warning from people to ABC7 I-Team about a scheme that could impact 2 million people in Illinois who receive food benefits from the government. Thieves have found a way to steal from people's SNAP accounts. Now, the state of Illinois is telling the I-Team they are no longer able to replace the funds, leaving some families struggling to put food on the table. Things are just getting more and more desperate. It is a sophisticated scheme that is affecting people nationwide. Hackers have been clearing out people's food benefits over the last few years. The state was reimbursing them, but that's not happening anymore unless the federal government steps in. Last month, Chatham resident Ciara Herbert checked her EBT account for a heading to the grocery store, and there was a huge problem. So looked at the app and it said someone had taken $440 off my SNAP benefits card in Florida, Herbert said. But Herbert said she was in Chicago. Somebody had cleared out her food benefits account, leaving her a mother with $7 for her and her son. Food prices are higher, eggs cost a lot, Herbert said. It was very difficult last month just to maintain my household, all the things me and my son needed. The I-Team has gotten dozens of calls over the last few years about SNAP fraud, also known as EBT fraud, for people whose link cards were drained. It's an absolute disaster unfolding. But one of the main things this food theft causes is food deserts. And talking about like food insecurity as a whole that leads to the creation of these food deserts, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, DHHS, which I believe is being headed by Robert Kennedy Jr. now, which kind of makes me nervous, estimates that 17.4 million American households were food insecure in 2014. So I can only imagine how much worse it is now. Food security is the physical and economic access to sufficient, nutritious foods by all people at all times. When this access is disrupted or limited, food insecurity occurs. Food insecurity may be temporary, for example, if you run out of food for a day or two, or long-term, as exemplified by persistent poverty and poor access to food. They say, hey, 3 missed meals, and you're going to start a revolution. People get hungry. People don't eat for a few days. Yeah, some people get really desperate. They're forced to do desperate things. Food insecurity among low-income communities and food deserts is 2.5 times greater than the national average. It's absolutely terrible. More information here as I scroll down. Low-income communities have a high proportion of Black and Latino populations who are disproportionately affected by poor food access. Robust evidence shows that racial segregation places historically marginalized populations, particularly Black people, in impoverished neighborhoods. 2016, compared with national average, Black households were 2 times likelier to be food insecure, while Hispanic households had a greater prevalence of food insecurity. Notably, 76% of neighborhoods with a high proportion of Black people were among the most impoverished. Talk about the health effects of food deserts. Diet and nutrition play a major role in chronic diseases. Chronic diseases are the leading cause of death and disability in the United States, with heart disease, diabetes, and cancer being the most common. Among low-income and food-insecure communities, disproportionate access to affordable, healthy foods contributes to poor nutrition and perpetuates health disparities, leading to higher rates of obesity and other chronic ailments. Notably, Black people who are likelier to be food insecure have the highest rates of disease and mortality, largely related to diabetes and high blood pressure. A vicious cycle may develop in which people with chronic diseases and food deserts rely on convenience stores and corner stores, which often sell expensive foods with low nutritional value, further limiting people's capacity to buy healthy foods. Here's some solutions for food deserts. Understanding food deserts as food apartheid, and not only addresses the root causes, but also challenges the quality of solutions that are often presented. Temporary fixes that continue to perpetuate wealth inequalities and health disparities include the placement of more fast food chains and corner stores within food deserts. Simply increasing access to cheap food doesn't lead to equitable access to affordable and healthy foods. At the community level, food distribution, locally run markets, and gardening make great tools for communities to increase food access, reduce food insecurity, and promote healthy diets and lifestyles. Keep in mind that comprehensive structural and policy changes are needed to achieve equitable food prices. Still, you can get started on community-run solutions to improve access to affordable, healthy foods in food deserts. Government policies need to change because food deserts are caused by large structural issues like racism and classism. Significant social, political, and legal changes need to occur to give people equal access to food. Still, small shifts in government policies could immediately alleviate food insecurity and address some of the root causes of food deserts. Enlarging the existing food safety net, current programs like Supplemental Nutrition Assistance, SNAP, also known as food stamps, and Special Supplemental Nutritional Program for Women, Infants, and Children, WIC, could be expanded by increasing their funding and allowing more families access to their resources. Incentivizing grocery store development in food insecure areas, tax breaks, other government incentives could encourage supermarkets to open areas with high rates of poverty and food insecurity Anti-poverty tax structure, tax in the lowest income thresholds could be lowered, and benefits of the earned income tax credit could be expanded. Integrate healthcare professionals. Healthcare workers and professionals could be trained to screen for food insecurity and connect families to the resources available. So there's some solutions, just some quick solutions to talk about this kind of stuff. Food insecurity is a serious, serious issue. It's something I've struggled with at times. Now I have like a system of support. I'm one of the luckier ones. Yeah, I might be broke in some ways, but I typically don't have to worry about food insecurity. Obviously, I'm a big fat guy, but there's a lot of communities that do struggle with this kind of stuff, and it makes you more empathetic to some people who do legitimately have to kind of skirt the law in order to sustain themselves. But these problems keep propping up, and unless there is massive systemic change, nothing is really going to be done about them, and it's really tragic. But that's all I got for you guys for right now. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and I will talk to you guys later.
Ryan Little.